I got my spirit fingers for this one.
Woo,
I'm feeling
baby.
it. I'm feeling it. I'm dancing with this guy right now.
If I have dogs that bark during the thing, are we going to be worried about that?
Not at all.
I will have dogs that are going to bark at some
That's
point.
fine.
I have a car wash going on outside.
That's fine. Because then I might just start singing, "Who let the dogs out?" Ooh,
Every
ooh, ooh.
day,
We start barking with them.
every day at
Yeah,
6
yeah,
p.m., Alexa tells us that question. Who let the dogs out? That means we're supposed
yeah.
to take for a walk.
That's so awesome. That's good right there,
All
man. I'm
right.
pumped, dude. This is something that I think when I jump into these, I have different stages of relationships with people I have on the show, and man, I got to be honest. I feel like you and I's relationship has developed the fastest, most recently in my life, and we've grown this bond together. It's like this crazy, first of all, grateful feeling that I have for you in so many different ways, and obviously for you and what you've done and who you've become and the journey that you've taken, the lives that you've impacted. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to kind of blend the two between you sharing and then let you coach me through some stuff, because I think I always enjoy those types of processes because you're really, really good at it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than the one and only Don Hobbs. And Don, because we were just chatting before this, you were talking about something that I think the audience would want to hear, which was the whole sort of timing of life and age of life and what it means to sort of get into yourself and find yourself and start to discover,
Yeah.
that you have something and there's a message inside you, and to do your own thing, which you were just sharing with me. So let's start with that idea right there. And, I'll just let you start ripping on it, and then I'll start to process my thoughts and start to come at you with some questions. And this is going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait. Let's do this. Let's do this.
I'm gonna hit you with something we didn't even talk about, and I'll start with that, and then I'll move back to what we talked about, and that is, uh, statistically speaking, the most productive years for most people is going to be their 70s. Go figure.
Wow.
So if people stay in that mindset of active, that's when their greatest wisdom, everything comes from the past to the present. They're as big as they're ever going to be, and they still have the chance of going. Again, to me, today, the 70 is the new 50, or 50 is the new 70, or whatever it is. But we're seeing people so much older and they act so much younger, right? We don't see age as an impact. But what's true is at that point, we know how to do stuff. We've figured stuff out. We've got wisdom to bring with us. We've got our own sense of self that we've gone through the ups and the downs and the healing and the stuff that we've dealt with in the past. And, like we've arranged peace, generally, right? So, but what I was saying, and this goes to where you are, because I'm so impressed with what you've done, Manny, and who you are, Manny, at the place that you are. And I don't know how old you are. It doesn't matter. You're
37.
You're timeless. Okay. So
37.
So yeah, so I was fortunate. I started my career at an early stage in the personal development world. I was 18. So for that reason, I had years, which led me in a place where I was still young and yet executive and whatever of a big company, right? We grew a big company. Most people are most productive between 40 and 50 years old in the business world. Now, again, we got, at some level, if you can get past the frame of survival at 70, like you're just able to give and contribute in such a great way. 30s, generally speaking, people are maybe finding themselves discovering a little bit, still tripping on themselves. 40s, 50s, man, we're humming. So you look at most success stories, they're going to hit their stride. They're going to take over as president. They're going to start and create the thing. Maybe they did one back at 18, 19, 20. Maybe they made it. More than likely, they burned that one up and they burned another one up and then they hit one. Why? Because they bring all that wisdom from the past. So I think you're in a perfect place, which is what I was partially saying. And so we come back to that, but I think you're in a perfect place. And I watched where I went through the growth stages. And I think, we hit our big stride between my 35 and 45.
Yeah, great age right there, right?
48 and 48, something like that, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's a thing nowadays too, that it gets pressurized, because what didn't exist back then was the option to view somebody else in a magnifying glass, social media, these different tools where it's so easy for us to look at something and be misled about what might really be going on and think that you're falling behind in your mid 30s or 40s or 50s. But in fact, it's the complete opposite is what you're saying. Is that right?
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I think that we don't have much of a sense of what's really happening. Social media gives us a very different sense. But, you know, I mean, it's great because business expands faster, because a lot of things happen faster. You know, we're more aware. I listen to people talk about the negativity of the world. Oh my God, there's wars and there's killing people. It's like, it was always happening. We just didn't have access to it. It was always happening.
Right.
It's like the history of the world. Yeah. So everything is expanded and faster, but it's always been happening. It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
So then I fall back on Rohn, and he says, "No, it's not what happens. What you do with what happens. What happens has been happening for years. What happens to everybody. What happens just happens. Yeah. That's not going to dictate. You know, we just did a video a little while ago with a partner. We did an interview like this, and we were talking about the finances. I said, listen, the economy. You can listen to the news. Their job is to hook you with scary, fearful things. That's their product. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way. So no matter what's happening, they're going to take the scary part. And they're not going to tell you the whole truth. They're going to tell you the truth according to fear. And so, you know, I was saying the economy is one thing. Our personal economy has nothing to do with that. We don't have to buy into that. Oh my gosh, the economy's down. I think I'm going to fail now. It's like, that's nothing to do with it. It's your choice. It's, what are you going to do? What's your next action? What's your mindset shift? How do you pivot? How do you take action in this moment? Right.
So,
everything was easy. I mean, what did Tony Robbins say? He spoke for us this last year. And he said, easy times breed weak people. Weak people create bad times. Bad times create strong people. Strong people create great times, which creates weak people. And there's a cycle. So that's why it goes like this, right?
Yeah. Wow. I would write that down. Anybody that's listening, just to study that, because that's deep. That's real deep.
Awesome. I mean, it's awesome. And doesn't it make sense? I mean, we've got people, we have all this money that came out of the last generation, all this money. People are buying houses of cash, $3 million cash. There's cash everywhere, right? More cash than ever before. And so then we got people that are just entitled and don't know how to work. They don't have any growth strategies. They're not interested in their personal development. They're not interested in they're coasting. I told somebody a couple of days ago who was trying to retire at 70. I said, you know what? The average age of death after retirement is 3 years. I wouldn't retire. I don't see why we need to anymore, because we're in an age where I can live in Puerto Rico and run businesses around the world. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And enjoy what you do.
Why would I retire? I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, clearly. So you said a few different things there, Don, that I want to come back to. You referenced Rohn. It's one thing that he said that when I first started the personal development journey, whether it was him, Nightingale, Zig, and Proctor, I think were the top 4 that I started with. He said it's not about the $1 million, and I'm paraphrasing to some extent. He said it's about what you become and who you become in acquiring the pursuit of the $1 million, right? And it's like, man, in the middle of all this, I'm like, God, how accurate is that? It's fantastic to start to just drop off your old self and feel the maturity taking place. But before I go too far in that direction, you brought up the word that I think a lot of people get crippled by, and I think it happens internally. And you said survival. On this journey of, I think whether you're at the 40-year-old mark, the 50, 60, and, even if it's 70, that's a ways away for some people. Maybe some people are already there, but how can we get past because I've suffered from this, and I still have bouts of this where I am gripped by this need, because it's programming, right? It's a kind of deep down there. How do we get past this idea of I'm conditioned to survive, and then we can turn it around to start thriving. Like, what are some practical steps to get out of that just deep hole that people, I think, get stuck in and never reach out and step into who they can become, type of thing?
Yeah, there's a lot of answers. We go really deep on this, or we can take it a little more surfacey, but I'll tell you, let's start with the surfacey stuff. First of all, clearly, goals, purpose, having a direction, having, this is where I'm going, and having it be exciting. Like, I love where you're at right now, always on the grow. This feels great to me to watch you because you're excited about it. I'm excited about what I do. So like, there's an element of that is a driver, right? But I'm clear about my purpose. I've said I do what I do for free. How do I know? I've proved it so many darn times. I've given so many places, done so many things for people just because I can and because I love it so much, right?
Mm.
So purpose, goals. I mean, I'm going to put that all in one bucket and say, you got to have some pull.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get to the belief systems, right? And I've told coaching clients, listen, right now, you're not believing in yourself. I believe in you. Just, I want you to believe in my belief in you till you get your own. You'll come back to it. You'll get to there. But right now, trust me, I've watched lots of people. I've spoken for almost 2 million people. I've seen it all. I'm telling you, you're there. You're right on it.
Yeah.
So, but the self-belief, that self-image, that sense of self, okay, is the biggest thing that's missing. And then if you go deep on that piece, which is the part that's really hard, is somewhere along the line, whether it was when we were 2 or 3 or 10, but it's probably, generally speaking, before 12, we bought somebody's story. We heard a voice, we had an experience, we had many experiences, we heard many voices. And all I know is that somewhere in there, we bought into the story. And I laugh about it sometimes and say, that's not the funny part. But the funny part is that some of the beliefs are so old, they're like cassette tapes or even 8-track tapes. They're 8 tracks. And we're still going, but dude, did you hear this? I'm like, you don't even have an 8-track player anymore, man. You don't have a cassette player. Quit playing it. Like the memory of what it was when you could play it. Like, it's not there. It has nothing to do with your current state of mind. It has nothing to do with who you are. But by the way, all that's developed you to the place where you are, right? But there is a healing part because sometimes we are so hurt. And we made choices. We made choices at early ages. My dad comes out. I say to him, hit my glove and his glove, baseball. Dad, let's play catch. He goes, son, I can't. I got to go to work. What does a 5-year-old know about work? I don't understand that. All I know is he's leaving me and I wanted to play and he's not playing with me, which means I'm not lovable. I'm not important enough. He's going to go do something else besides me. So I make a choice and I could carry that around for freaking years.
Yeah.
I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not whatever. And that's going to run so much of my life. And we won't even know where it's running us, except we'll notice if we see any patterns, if we're observing of ourselves, we'll see sabotage. We'll see where we get right to it and then we blow it up. We'll get right to it and then we just can't get off our butts to go to work. We'll get right to it and then we fall apart because there's something in there that says, I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I mean, I don't know what the words are for you, whoever's watching, but I know that there's something in there that's probably holding us. So then we want to go and deal with that and heal it. And ultimately, and this is where, again, this is probably way deeper than we wanted to go in this, interview, but
no, we go there, buddy. We go there.
That part where you have to feel the feelings, but not live in the feelings. Like, feel the feelings, let them come up and out.
Wow, that's powerful.
There's a book I've recommended for years. It's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. It's not the best book in the whole world. It's kind of clunky. But the title alone tells you something. It's like, you go, oh, it's, just don't worry about it. That's your past. Don't worry about it. Just bury it. Like, just get positive. Just pump it up, baby. Well, you've never dealt with the stuff. And so what happens is it comes out sideways. It comes out sideways in passive aggressive behaviors, it comes out in aggressive behaviors, it comes out in bad relationships. It comes out in not being able to attach to people and have relationships. It comes out. It's always going to come out. So the only question is, can you allow it to come up and dissipate so that the energy doesn't run you anymore? Well, I did that. Yeah, but it's still there. So it's going to come up again and dissipate and come up again and dissipate. And you're going to do that until You have no energy about it. You could talk about that hurt, that my dad who abandoned me and really was not part of my life for all those years. Like it's the sun outside. It's a sunny day. It's a beautiful day. It's a little breeze. I mean, it's like nothing, it means nothing to you. It doesn't hurt anymore, but you have to get it out. Otherwise, you're going to come back to the story, back to the story. You don't understand. You don't understand where I came from. You don't understand how it was for me. You don't understand how bad it was. And we're going to live in that identity. That's not who we are. Hell, who we are way bigger than that.
Oh man. Do you think that people avoid doing that part where it is the confronting of it because let's look at this for a second. It's really a neat sort of evaluation. So it's like I'm living in it, right? And I keep telling the story and I keep repeating the same behavior, and therefore that's my identity, like you just said. But when it's time for me to fix it, if I have to go meet that part of myself, it's almost like a contradiction, because it's like you're being it, you're living it, and it's okay to you to do that, but you won't go challenge it and work with it to fix it. Therefore, they avoid it or run from it altogether. So how do you wrap that together? Like, how do you understand my question there? We're going deep, man, by the way. So, do you realize what I'm saying? It's like I can parade around and be the same guy and tell the same victim story and the same consequence. My life is all woe is me. And then it's like, all right, Manny, we have to go and we have to get into those feelings and understand. So like you said, they can get up and get out. But when that time comes, it's like, oh no, I can't do that. I'd rather stay like this. I'd rather live like this.
Sometimes, Manny, it's not that they want that. They don't want to go there. I don't want to cry. I don't want to revisit the pain. It's not pain. It's just feelings. Just feelings. That's all. Just feelings. I don't know if you can hear them. I got dogs. I got big dogs.
They're good, man. I told you, who let the dogs out? I'm gonna have to get a little music player so I can throw in music in the middle of it.
By the nature of the labeling of it, we don't want to go there because it's bad. It's negative. It's not. It's just emotions. They're just coming up and they're going out. They're just coming up and they're coming up and going out. So it's really the judgment of it. It's our own self-judgment, and it's the judgment of all that. Sorry, there's lots going on in the house here.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it goes, baby. This is us on the grow right now.
Always on the grow.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I think I completed that thought, but it's really about it's always there. And here's the other thing, Manny. Some people get attached to the story of that. It becomes their identity so strongly that I wouldn't want to walk away from that. Who am I if I'm not that? Mm-hmm. And what would I have to do? How would I have to show up if I wasn't living through the belief of that? Oh my gosh, I'd be put on the spot. I'd have to show up. I'd have to come out. I'd have to be bigger, And there's a piece that I've got now. I'll send it to you. Maybe you can use it as one of the pieces in your show. And there's a place where it says that some people are attached to the outcome. Some people are attached to the not having what they want, which is you scratch your head and you go, what do you mean they're attached to? They're so attached to not having what they want. They're so used to not having what they want. It's so much a part of the identity of who they are. So much they don't want to destroy that because that's pretty safe, even though it sucks. It's pretty safe.
Yeah, that's a very subtle but powerful remark that you just made right there. I think that it's like I'm in marriage and I'm married to the things I don't have more and committed more to that, and I'll fight tooth and nail for that over choosing to go for the things that I would rather become or desire to step into and evolve through, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You hit it right on.
So you just mentioned something. So like I said to you a few minutes ago, I said, we'll turn this into a coaching session because I really like to show real-time progress. And I think that in me leaning in from this direction, I think it will help some people. You mentioned how, you're happy that I'm doing what I'm doing and you're enthusiastic, you're excited for what I'm doing. And I think about, so like the perfect example of an identity question. you've been there for me the last, but seems like a couple of years now. I actually have to go back and do the math, but it's been a few years, and I was doing this, and then I started doing this, and then I started doing this. And you probably were like, you were excited every time, right? And you said something like, you believe in me, like you believe in everybody else. And how does a guy like you coach someone like me? Because there's a lot of people out there right now, I guarantee you, that are thinking, they're trying to find that purpose, that direction, that clarity, where maybe I didn't have the strength internally yet to say, I got to do my own thing. I've got to figure out this path, but keep going forward and just not quit. And, the problem for me was like, I feel like I was doing so many random different things. I had to stop being the guy that started something and didn't finish it, which then becomes embarrassing. So I could potentially go inward and eternally be like, these guys think I'm a joke and I don't start and finish anything. But really what I was doing was trying to discover like what it is I'm supposed to anchor into, and hence this moment. But in your case, for someone that's out there that is like me before, how would you encourage them to continue to be on this journey and to reveal to themselves and not maybe take some of that stuff so seriously, or like, what would you have to say as a more of a general lesson type of a thing?
Okay, hit me with the simple version of that.
I'm trying to go deep on Don. I was, me, and you believed in me.
I do.
Because you saw something in me, but I was doing things where
didn't support you.
Well, yes. And I was like, I came back to you at different stages and I was like, oh, I'm doing this now. Oh, I'm doing this now. Oh, I'm doing this now. And you accepted and were with me either way. You were still my friend and you still brought me into your circle. You still, helped me help myself a little bit. You didn't quit on me. And that was very supportive, right? So it was like somebody else out there that might be going through that same process. What would be some words of wisdom in that, to not take that part where you're discovering so maybe negatively, like as if you don't know what you're doing or where you're going?
Well, to one extent, it's just the growth process, right? As a kid, we don't laugh at the kid who falls down. It's just part of the deal. So it's just growth. It's always on the grow. You're always in that place. I think the biggest thing is that we see it as adults. We see it as failure. As adults, we judge ourselves in very different ways. Maybe we do as kids, but people around us don't, point fingers and go, you idiot, you fell down 3 times in a row. They don't do that generally. Most parents aren't that way. They're supportive, right? And I think for us, as we get older, we go, well, I'm beyond that. I'm supposed to be, like, those are the words. I'm supposed to be bigger or better, or I'm supposed to know. I'm supposed to have money. I'm supposed to have, I'm supposed to. And we generalize and we put ourselves in a box and go, that's how I should be. Therefore, I'm a failure. It's hard to get out when your self-talk is all about, I suck.
Interesting.
So really it's a matter of growth. And, that's why I love always on the grow. It's like, to me, we grow through what we go through, as my friend Tony Rodriguez would say. It's all growth. There's nothing that's not growth. Again, I don't want to go to the extremes, but people that have gone to prison for things, it was a growth experience. Just something they did. It may not even been who they were. I know it's not at a spiritual level. It's not who they are.
Absolutely.
It's the behaviors that they learned and the self-image that they had that led them to make those choices. Well, so we can see that as being, well, certainly that's not me, but our version of it is just a classier version of it. The same thing, just behaviors that instead of putting us in prison, put us in the broke house, or put us in failure of a business, or put us in failure of a marriage, or put us in same thing, same exact thing. It's just more extreme, and we go, it's easier to see them than it is just look at myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Makes
and
sense?
all your, of course. Absolutely, man. And again, I always talk about perspective on this nowadays on the show. It's like, is it a right or wrong answer based on, fact or black or white? No, it's really, what your point right there was, is like, how do we see it? How is it wrapped up? The substance inside the package could be the same, but the paper on top of it could be 50 million different colors and designs. And, bows, ribbons, all that stuff, right? So it all matters.
Manny, let me say something real quick, and if you can hold that thought real quickly.
Please.
We judge ourselves. When we judge ourselves and we see other people doing things that we judge ourselves for, we don't like them. But that's a part of ourselves that we haven't accepted. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in this society today, and we see it, so much division, so much divisiveness, right? So much division. Again, how would we handle a kid? How would we handle, remember, most of us are 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. We were damaged. We got stuck in that part of our life. And we're still like, we may be in a 40-year-old body, but we're like still, sorry, we just are, So like, can we cut ourselves some slack, and can we cut each other some slack and go, wow, he's just having a really bad day, or he's having a really bad time, or I wonder how I could support him in getting from where he is to where he wants to go. I wonder if there's anything I could do to support that, instead of going, you're an asshole, which is one way to handle it, but it doesn't serve anybody. Or your religion's wrong, or your belief is wrong, or your party is wrong, and the political party, or your way of thinking is wrong, or instead of going, I used to think that way, and I actually have, here's what I discovered. I mean, there's some things we could do to understand each other, but I think that we judge ourselves, and we would never judge the 3 or 4 or 5-year-old. We would be sweet. We'd be kind. I mean, generally, there are people that beat their kids up, right?
Right.
We would be supportive. We would go, I understand, man. Come with me. Let's go throw the ball. We do something nice with each other. And in our world today, it's like, you're wrong. And because of that, listen, we've been killing each other on the planet for years because of different beliefs, whether it be religious or, political or.
Absolutely right. Because right now it's going on over in Europe.
Wrong freaking country. You are from the wrong freaking country. If you were from my country, you'd be a good guy. It's just idiotic.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's and something you mentioned earlier, which was the negativity side of things, which gets pressed into the societal norms, and people just don't even know that it's happening.
Yeah.
It begs the direction and this next question, because you bring up something unique. And I think that with all your years of being around some of the top business names, have you seen that business can be done without bad? Let me see if I can ask this question correctly. I feel like I've been around, like, what happens when you get to the higher levels of business. I hear this wording, business is war. You gotta kill the next guy. And I get that. I understand it. Do you think that is more reality, and there is a space for healthier business to be done and more abundant types of approaches, versus this, we're trying to claw each other out and we're going to take each other down type of thing? Because I've seen it too. And I'm like, that sucks. I just don't subscribe to that. Right. So I'm curious what your thoughts and perspective are on that.
We're in a world where collaboration and cooperation is becoming much more the norm. We're more of a giant ecosystem instead of. You're watching a lot of people collaborate, and how can we work together instead of how do we beat each other up? You've got talents, I've got talents. Let's figure out how we can make that even bigger. Let's figure out what we can do. But again, competition. And I've started to sound like I'm a liberal, which is not necessarily the case. But what I would say, it's really interesting. What I would say is there are these pieces and parts where we don't need to compete. I'm competing with myself. Like Michael Jordan was great at competing with himself. He was going to be the best he could. I'm going to put it out there in a sporting, like, we play this sport for business. So I want to win, no doubt. But, I'm pushing me to be the best. And what the outcome is going to be is we're going to play hard. And our goal is to beat you. Are we going to lose? Yeah, we're going to lose some games. We're going to lose some games for sure. But I think, for most people, there's an element of competition in some ways is about, I'm better than you. And again, one more place to separate yourself. We separate ourselves by religion, by education, by money, the amount of money in the bank account, the number that represents your life, by married, not married, by gay, not gay. I mean, it's like there's so many ways to freaking divide the world, right? You're not what I am. And I think if we just left room for it and went, dude, it's like you're just a human being trying to get through this spinning planet, experience that we've got. Right?
Yeah.
Hang on,
Yeah.
it's a ride. It's a definite ride.
Before you go back to dust. Yeah, man, I get it. No, I'm with you there. It's been great to recognize that. So let's go back in time. Obviously, you brought up Rohn earlier. I think it's funny because I was in a meeting the other day and Jim got brought up, and I said, I feel super privileged to know someone like you. And I brought you up. I said, my good friend had the honor, and I don't think he recognizes. I'm sure you do, but the blessing that you were privy to be a part of something so special in that understanding, that context of the messaging and the life lessons and the philosophies and the growth path that you were able to get on. So you said you were young, and you were. And I want you to kind of talk to the person out there that is trying to create the opportunity for themselves, right? How did you end up getting involved in at Rohn's company? We're talking about Jim Rohn, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary father of personal development. And you ended up running the company. You worked with Tony, and that starts somewhere. It manifests out of an action or an activity that you at some point happened. Like, I think people get super curious around that, because I know I would if it hadn't already started happening to me in now life. I'd be like, God, what did he do? How did he do it? Like, what do I have to do? And people are on that pursuit right now to identify what do they need to do. So take us back then and walk us through a little bit of that journey.
Yeah, cool. My mom bought me a ticket to see Jim's seminar. It was a date night, as I remember, Friday, Saturday, whatever it was. All I know is I wasn't intending to be in a seminar.
Not on a Friday or Saturday night, right?
I'm 18 years old, and I'm like, that's not the place an 18-year-old wants to be at a seminar. But anyway, it didn't take me very long, and I was taking notes, and I was loving this guy. And I'm like,
well, I'm going to jump in on this one on purpose, Don. And I'm going to cut you off on purpose. So just understand that. So you weren't interested in going, but your mom forced you to go. Is that the idea? She's like, no, son, you got to go figure out your life. Like, what's happening there?
Yeah. So it wasn't a forcing. It was more like what she said was really funny now in hindsight. He reminds me of you. That's what she told me when she came. She had seen him the month before, and she goes, he reminds me of you. And I was like, well, I think he's older, so I probably remind you of him. But anyway, that's man. But anyway, she bought the ticket. She said, I'm going to go back with you. And I went, and I had, I don't know if anybody has even seen these anymore. I don't even know if they make them, but it was a stenographer's notebook, which opens this way, right? Not this way. And little spiral bound, right? And I took 19 pages of notes and sat there, and it was magic. It didn't take me long. And I was like, and I could see somebody that I didn't have a life to compare it to. I was 18. It wasn't like I went, oh my gosh, my life super sucks or whatever. But there was an element of like, I wanted what he was talking about. I wanted that. And I had succeeded at a very high level as a student, very high levels in sports. And I wanted that. That was like, and I think that's what my mom said, he reminds me of you. So there was an element of that, which is kind of the way I thought and talked and whatever. But I walked up to him at the first break, and I said, I'm blown away. I'm honored. Thanks for having me here. And I think I probably stumbled around, I want to be you, or I want to do what you're doing or something. But there was an element of like, I love what you're doing so much. I want to do this. Long story short, he addressed me in, very nice. And I don't think it was anything special. He had a great handshake. He had a very unique handshake. And I walked away, sat through the rest of the program, and bought then everything that they were selling on the backside. So again, I'm 18 years old, and I'm spending $1,000 to go to his leadership program. This is in the 70s, dude. This is a lot of money.
Yeah. Were you making your own money at this point, or mom's helping you out?
That was mine. So I go to his leadership thing. I bought his cassette tapes. I've got all his stuff, and I spent all the money. And when I went to the leadership program, it was his ranch. They had a ranch in Northern California, and there was only 50 of us. And I walked up to him and I said, I want to work for you. And he said, well, go see my man Rich back there. And Rich hooked me up, and I got a chance to go to work for him. So I was 18. And then the funny part was that I don't think they were hiring kids, but Tony Robbins, 17, comes along like 3 months later. He's there. And we had a lot of interesting people. I mean, Mark Hughes, who formed Herbalife was there, Larry Thompson. They weren't selling, they were in his programs at the same time. We saw all these guys, these dynamic kids, 19 years old, 18 years old, whatever. And, the old guys that were 25 and 30. We were making some big things happen. We had 10 programs a month in California with 1,000 people each, every single month in California, 10,000 people live and in person going to see the Jim Rohn do his program, right? It was amazing. I mean, I've never heard of anything like it in that kind of way. This was long before arenas, and that was before anybody had ever thought that big about it, because the personal development industry was nothing. I mean, it was nothing. Infant stages. So I got to hang around with that. Tony and I were both selling, competing, if you will. I was Orange County, he was LA. Eventually we ended up being kind of partners with Jim Rohn. The company shifted and we became partners. And then at some point, about 5 years in, Tony ran off to go do some silly firewalk thing, which was hysterical.
I like how you say that.
Well, I mean, it was hysterical. He used to call me and go, "Dude, I want you to come and we're doing this firewalk thing. I want you to come." I'm like, yeah. I'm busy. It's like I'm got to wash my hair or something. Anything to get. I'm not going to go walk on fire. It's like that's not happening. And he tricked me into getting me into Denver to come and see him. But we did some good things, and then of course Rohn and I got to travel and hanging around with this guy. I knew it was special. Like I loved every minute. I was there early. I stayed late. You asked the question, what would it mean to somebody? How do we take that behavior? I would say you want to get around people that you admire. You want to get around people who are doing it better. You want to, Rohn used to say, we're living our lives as examples or as warnings, right? And, somebody who's wrecked their life, hey, can I take you to lunch and figure out, you tell me how you screwed it up so bad. I mean, that's not going to happen, but that's kind of the point was, show me what you did wrong so I don't have to do that. Because we can learn from other people's experiences.
Of course.
And then of course, on the Rohn side, I would go early and be there. So if he talked and said a few things, we'd gather around. I mean, it felt special. It felt like we were in a precious place. And I recognized that then. I was fortunate because the last 2 years I was president of his company and got to travel everywhere with him, which was really fun. And, being so young, I had no relationship with my father. And so he didn't know it. He knew it later, but he didn't know it, but he was kind of my father figure. He was kind of that guy in my life that was, I was hanging on every word like dad, it's like dad to do, and he taught me so many interesting lessons, some through programs, some in our conversations. Certainly hanging around with him one-to-one was amazing. And, I got to tell you, it was a really special time in my life. I could only imagine being there. I could only imagine being with him. And he got married to a woman who wanted to run the company, and we would make decisions. He would go home. He'd come back with a different choice. And I had to exit. I was like, I can't do it. So eventually I ran off to go do my own thing. But it was an amazing period of time. And of course, people like Tony, and it wasn't just Tony. Tony was, certainly he was a standout, both in size and results, but so was I, not in size, but in results. And we had other people that were, we just battled for who was number one, who was number one, who was number one. But eventually, when Tony went off and he had this big thought, that turned into something magic, right? And so it was, we just had him speak, and he comes out on stage. I want to thank my good friend Don Hobbs. For 44 years we've known each other now.
Wow, that's fantastic, man.
Wow. So anyway, we're still in life together, and he's done great. And I kind of went a different direction, went into the real estate space in this training field, in this, influence field. And so I was fortunate. We picked a little narrow niche and just blew it up and made great things happen. So, but that was the start for all of it. And I look back on that time. I was clear in the moment, but I certainly am clear as I am an adult at how much influence that was, like what I really took in, how I thought so differently. And it wasn't, this is a great lesson for people too. But one, ask for people that you want to be around, right? You've put yourself out there with me. I love that. I will help you, right? I will respond. And I asked him, I want to be around you. I want to, it's like, don't be afraid to ask for that. You're worth it. You deserve it. And somebody that sees an interested person may say, wow, I could really pour into this person and give back. They don't get asked that often.
Right.
I mean, I know people that authors come to town to do a book signing or a training or a program or something. And they're like, can I pick you up at the airport? Can I take you someplace? Can I, right? That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Tony calls it proximity. Rohn said you become the 5 people that you hang around the most. But either way, one of my friends, Chad Wilson, said, I started admiring these people, these speakers, and the Bogmandinos and these big names, Proctor. I mean, you named them. And I started looking around these people, and I'm like admiring and reading their books and going, wow, if I could just be like them. They'd come to town, I'd start meeting them. He said, pretty soon they're giving me their phone numbers. They're inviting me into their life. And he said, when my life became where they were my social circle, my life had completely changed. Mm-hmm. So we have to recognize, and I was just writing a post about this today, playing up. When I played tennis, I blew up my Achilles recently playing tennis. But when I play tennis, you play up. When you golf, you play up. If you can, you play up because you play better. You learn, you focus more, right? If you play down, so I can win. Mm-hmm. That's great, but you don't grow, you don't learn, you don't do anything, right?
Right.
So if we can just get to the place where we play up and see ourselves bigger and go for more and really drive that part of us, which is willing to grow and fail and know that failure isn't failure. It's just finding learning lessons. I mean, stuff that we figure out. That's how you figure it out. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't do that again. I won't do that again. Yeah. I'll do it differently next time. What would you do? These 3 things, these, 2, 3 things. Yeah. Then you're learning. Keeping a journal. I mean, Rohn had me keeping a journal. I've got freaking 40 years of journals of all the best ideas that I've thought and somebody told me. It's like, it's amazing. It's amazing, right?
So you're fantastic. Freaking-tastic. I was going to say another F word, but I silenced that one out because I was like, you know what? Maybe that's a little too vulgar. The point you just made about, I like to have fun, man. The point you just made about playing tennis up and the focus versus the winning, that is profound in the sense that playing up makes you concentrate because it's so there's a gap between your current ability and their ability. Therefore, in order for your ability to match that ability, you have to pay attention, right? You have to be concentrating versus if you're just playing to win, you're like, oh, I got this, hey, you could just, do one of these things and bounce back and forth. And I think that's very, very important, man. So well pointed out. Okay. So there you are as a kid. There Tony is. You guys are 17, 18, 19. Is this a question of, Don, is this destiny, or is this like, what do you notice about yourself and Tony at that young age that allowed you to come out on top and go out and absolutely dominate in the space and become so much to so many people that maybe the other person doesn't have, where there's certain characteristics at an early age that were understood and then utilized, or something that, was like the outlier effect type of thing. What was that element, if you could recognize or recall something along those lines?
I think there's a part of it, which is, I remember saying to my mom, I didn't succeed. I mean, I failed for 2 years. I failed. Mm-hmm. I used to laugh and say the only sales I made were my furniture and my anything I could sell, which is trying to liquidate and stay afloat. And because I used my address with her, we bought a house together when I was a kid, and because her address was my address for the stuff, she got all the nasty grams, right? She got all the bad stuff. You got to get a job. So I mean, it was not like I was coasting and hit it out of the park from day one. But I think there's a place where I recognized that I was at a place in my life where if I was ever going to take a risk, this was the time. So that may have had something to do with not married, not committed in so many ways, right? And I know that's harder for people, but the reality is that decision is what it takes. Am I all in, or am I in as long as it doesn't mess up with my, it's like, that's a different story. That's not all in. That's I'm working at it. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I'll just blame it on the circumstances or the economy or something. But if you're all in, I wasn't going anyplace. And she said, you got to get a job. I told her not long ago, she sits in on my programs to this day. And I said to a group, and she said, was I really like that? I said, I said, I had to cut her off and I had to not hang around with her as much because it was always a battle about you need to. And I was like, I'm not doing it. So I just said, I can't be around you as much. And I love you still. I just can't hang around with you. And then I get to go do my own thing. And at some point, of course, it was like, oh, I knew you'd be a success. I knew, which is comical. But I remember I was either 20 or 21, somewhere in that range, but I was young and I made $100,000 for the first time. So this would have been early 80s, right? Or yeah, around 80. And 100 grand. I mean, today, I talk to people, what do you want to make this year? They go 6 figures. I'm like, really? Only 6 figures?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So, Rohn took me aside and he said, congratulations. It's a big deal. Of course, he knew at the age it felt special. And he said, now that you've figured that out, do it in half the time.
Wow.
I was like, that's cool, right? How do I do that? So what are the things that made that up? What are the things that made that work? And let's do those things only. And so you do it in half the time, right? Compressed time. It's actually where a lot of my time concepts came from, is the understanding of that and the compression of time and the having the obsession and having the focus and all of that was like, you just have to go for fewer things, doing the right stuff more often. And, we're still going to play. And today we've got social media. So you scroll and you meant to scroll for 5 minutes and 35 minutes later, you're still scrolling. It's like, get off that damn thing and go back to work, right? Get to the things that are going to make a difference for you. Stop looking at everybody else's success. Stop looking at everybody else's make-believe life and go create the life you want, right? But I think that's really what it comes down to. And I would say too, being around him, to me, was about how do I create the life I want and then go build that. I'd never heard that you could do that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, you got a job and you worked for a lot of years and then you retired and you died. I mean, that's the basic script of the 70s, 80s. That's the basic script for before that time. We didn't even last that long, right? You got your gold watch and you were dead. You had a job. I mean, that probably was the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe even into the 70s. But the lifestyle we live now, it's like I tell people, we live in Puerto Rico. I don't have to be anywhere to do anything. I can be every place, anytime, all the time. What's the new movie? Anytime, everything, all at once. So what?
They just won a bunch of Oscars, right?
Won 7, yeah.
Yeah. I saw that. I was like, my God.
But I think we are in a position where we can do things and create from scratch. We create with our thoughts. We create with our ideas. We create with our actions. We create with our intention. But I didn't know that. I didn't have a clue. My parents didn't do that. My grandparents didn't do that. I mean, nobody in my life had ever done that. So for me, it was like magic. And I knew there was something because I remember writing like poetry and things when I was a kid about smiling and good attitudes. And I mean, I didn't know what it meant really, but I was a winner in sports and I liked having those concepts, those thoughts, right? So Rohn was a great extension, but he was like a father figure that took me under his wing and just said, here's how life can be. And some of that was in group form and some of that was one-to-one as we got to know each other better.
Right.
He died. I was devastated. I mean, that was my father figure for sure.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Man, that's a powerful story, man. That's a very sentimental, situational type of thing. The compressing timeframes thing that you just mentioned, and when he said how do it in half the time, what you said about that with the focus and the doing the right thing, was that the answer to being able to make 100 grand? Now do it in half the time. Was that the recipe for being able to do it in half the time that you shared, or was there something else in there, that was able to solve for that somebody could utilize?
That's probably my first aha, my first awareness, but I wasn't aware of. Today, I would say it's different. I'd tell you, I would say it in a different way. I would say there's 4 leverage points. I did these consciously or unconsciously, right? I was doing them consciously or unconsciously. The first one is your own personal growth. You know, if this is the pipe called you, and this is how wide it is, that's the capacity. You get to a certain capacity, and you're putting stress on the system because that's all that can, you know, if you're, I don't care, it's water, oil, juice, whatever it is, just, you know, you're at capacity, right? So one thing you can do is if you expand the pipe, the same flow through is less stressful.
Mm-hmm.
You put more through it, and it's still less stressful because you still got room to grow, or room to, you know, room left over. Second thing is marketing. I believe that all business is marketing. You know, we used to laugh. We had a big ad agency, and we trained millions and millions of people on personal branding and marketing. And I used to say, I don't know what your problem is, but I know the solution is marketing. It doesn't make any difference what it is that your problem is. I don't care if it's recruiting. I don't care if it's retention. I don't care if it's employee morale. I don't care if it's, you know, it doesn't matter. Sales, whatever it is, it's always a marketing game. And so marketing is the leverage of, this is working when I'm not, this is working when I'm on vacation, this is working all the time. Mm-hmm. And in today's world, that's even amplified.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then the third was process and systems. And the fourth is the other people. So I probably never was great at the process and systems. I'm not built very high in the disc profile. I don't have a lot of S or C. I'm kind of a screw up on that part, but I've had people around me that made me look really good. But I'm really good at the personal development side. I'm really good at the marketing side. And I got real good at with the people skills. I multiplied myself through people. And so we built a lot of, you know, people. I had teams and stuff. So my income wasn't based on what I do. My income was based on what we do and the culture that I built and the systems that somebody helped me build, because it was never. But I think that's more my understanding as I would see it. I just didn't have all that awareness at that time. I was 22, 23 years old. I mean, I wasn't really seeing it all. I was seeing, how hard can I work? What more can I do? But I was all in on that stuff.
Yeah.
No limit for me. It was like, I'll work till you aren't working. I'm working. I'm beating you.
Yeah. I always, there's times in my life where I joke, but I'm also like, maybe I have a little bit of guilt that I didn't. It's like, I didn't get my life on track until 30, right? Is when I got sober, and then we've taken off like on a rocket ship. I'm with all kinds of things I've always got to keep working on, always on the grow. But I think if I was 22, not partying and going out and getting drunk every night and working on myself, like some of these kids that come around today and they're like, yeah, I'm interested, I'm hungry. I'm like, do you realize how big the opportunity is for you to do something so magical? And the world that we live in, it's just, you know, the access to good stuff is just, it's unparalleled. Totally. You know, I think with what you've said, it's like, so example, like your own experience being around Jim as well. Was there some magic sauce, or is this personal development game and development of business game really simple in essence of what needs to be done, though the difficulty in actually doing it lives in what we've talked about kind of before that, in not feeling like you're good enough, or you're not capable to expand your capacity, when really it's like, do the right things every day, be consistent, commit to one thing, focus. Like, is that what all of you've discovered it is, Don, in essence?
Yeah, you could use a lot of words, but it comes right down to, I mean, there's because persistence and attitude, and there's a gazillion things, and they're all related to each other, right? That's why the personal development books are endless. And that's why the whole takes on resilience. You know, you fell down, how do you come back, right? There's lots of words, but the reality is it comes down to how you see things. And when you see bigger things, when you think bigger thoughts, let's put it that way. When you think bigger thoughts, you will have a different experience. When you expect small thoughts, you think small thoughts, you expect that smallness in your life, that's what you'll have. And the only difference really is not time and energy. We think it is. We think if I work harder, work longer, it's really not. It's really about the focus on the few things that really matter. It's through that same time that we can go big or go small. And it's really about, do we think big or do we think small? And that's going to dictate the first part of it. That's going to show up with more opportunities right in front of us that I see that somebody else has right in front of them, they don't see. You know, it's my thinking, right? I'm looking for answers. I'm looking for a big life, and people start showing up. If I'm looking for a small life, those people don't matter. In fact, I go, those rich dudes, I can't stand those guys, right? So it really is like when you're really looking for bigger, your RAS is up, you know, the reticular activating system, right? So when you're looking for bigger, then you see the bigger. And I think beyond that, you get into focus is big because you can't do everything. We have to decide what we will do. The hardest part of priority management is figuring out what you're not going to do. What's not a priority. That's probably one of the hardest things, because like, I could do this, I could do this. I know, but what are you going to do that's going to make the biggest difference, right? And then I think beyond that, you know, it's engaging with people, it's having support. You don't have to do it all yourself. The who, not you. You know, it shouldn't be you. I mean, we're always pushing. And of course, we live in a society today, as much as people don't want to talk about, you know, hey, keep the jobs in America. We live in a global economy anymore, and we can bring certain things to our world easier than we've ever been able to. And we're foolish not to do that. When Tim Ferriss wrote his 4-hour work week, and we go, right. I've got a buddy who's writing, he's just finishing Simon & Schuster, a new book called 3 Hours a Day. For some people will be a little more realistic. They'll go, I could do that. 3 hours a day, I could do that. But it's really about focus, same concepts. But what Tim Ferriss said was, I'm sitting on the beaches of wherever, and I'm able to live my life from here in 4 hours a week or 4-hour work week, because I'm doing the right things. I've got other people engaged, and I'm not paying as much as I would have to pay if I was. I really think we've got an opportunity today we never had. And by the way, don't talk about AI, because AI is going to change AI, robotics. Like, we got a lot of help. Talk about whether that's good news or bad news. There's another side of that, but you know, there is money to be made in not you, but who.
So first of all, let me check the time and make sure I don't.
Yeah,
What time you got to get out of here?
I gotta go.
You showed up on me late, man. I got to keep you for a few extra minutes. Damn it! I can tell you that because you're my buddy. You got to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm due at my physical therapist.
Oh, Jesus. All right, Don. Well, listen, we're gonna have to come back. I'm bringing you back. That's a guarantee. We're gonna have to do a live show.
Man, there's always of course. You got so many good questions, and your mind works so powerfully.
Well, I appreciate you for that, man. But hey, before you go, you're not going to escape me without telling us what this means to you. Before you go to physical therapy, I want you to tell that therapist that, damn it, therapist, your scheduling got in the middle of my podcast with this guy, Manny. Now you got to go listen to his podcast. How about that?
That'd be fun.
That's the awesome trade-off. Yeah, but man, hey, what does this mean to you? Always on the grow. Yeah, you can't say something you've already said today, by the way.
I don't know how to get around some of that, but I think, you know what, we are built for progress. We are built, like, we don't, you know, people want to retire. I got a guy, I don't even understand what you're talking about. I don't get it. We are built for progress. We're built for doing things. You can retire in golf if you're rich. You know, you can golf every day. You will be miserable. I mean, at some point you're going to go, dude, is this all there is? We are built for progress. We're built to give. We're built to grow. We're built to make bigger. We're built for that. And I think that, you know, that's what I love about the name, is like, you're all about the growth, the personal growth. And if people are watching, listening, the podcast or the video, right, however they're getting it, if they're getting this information from me, from you, from every other one of your guests, I think that what they're looking for is, how do I get better? And I know that I can't go for more. I will never achieve more until I'm better. I will never see more possibilities until I'm bigger. I will never, ever have my full capability until I grow me. It's not a matter of just the hard work, because God knows there are people that work super hard, hard, and never achieve.
Yeah, so true.
Right? It's not that. It's the inside growth that makes that happen. So, man, I'm honored to be part of that, Always on the Grow with you. I think it's a great title. I think it's a great focus for people. I hope you'll get a lot of people there that stay tuned and keep engaged with you and all that, because it's all about their growth, and it's all about becoming the person. When you said, Jim Rohn said, it's not about the achieving, it's about the process. It's about who I become in the process of that. That's my growth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
I build bigger muscles because I'm working them. I build bigger mental muscles because I'm working it. That's the growth.
Amen.
So,
well, I'll tell you what,
you're a shining star, man. You're a shining star.
It's going to be one of the biggest brands on the planet here pretty soon for a lot of different reasons. You watch. It's coming, baby. I'm proclaiming it. Y'all heard it right here. I'm telling you. That's it.
All in.
All right. Hey, how can we find you, man? Don't let us go without maybe being able to come check you out, see you somewhere, do some things with you.
Yeah, donhobbs.com is one of my sites. We've got a lot of things. Some of them are real estate related, some are not. Donhobbs.com is the easiest place. You can email me at don@donhobbs.com. You can find me on social. I'm pretty prominent on video and not video so much, but we do a lot on the social channels. Find me, communicate, talk to people. I answer everybody.
Yeah, he's amazing, y'all. Don, we love you, man. Thank you, brother. I love you, man. You just, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on, man. Go get that therapy session done. Physical therapy.
Therapy, yeah. Well, that too.
Yeah. All right, brother. Be good, man.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.